All the bodhisattvas of the three time periods are studying the same thing. All the Buddhas of the three time periods have the same realization. The realization of this mind. The teachings elucidated in the scriptures are all elucidate the same thing, this mind. The awakening of all cultivators is the awakening of this mind. The transmission of all the teachers is the transmission of this mind. The search in which all the monks of the world are engaged is the search of this mind. If we penetrate to this mind, everything is just the way it should be, and every object is fully illuminated. But if we are deluded in regard to this mind, every place is inverted, and all thoughts are mad. The delusion of all sentient beings is delusion in regard to this mind. The delusion of all sentient beings is delusion in regard to this mind. The awakening of all sentient beings is awakening in regard to this mind. So, to some extent, I'm going to read more Chinul as we go along, but I just wanted to suggest to you that I would like for us, all of us, to sort of conceptualize what we're doing today is this continually bringing our attention back to the reality of this mind. What is it? Where is it? You know, and the problem that we have is that the only instrument we have to look at this mind is the mind. That's a very, that creates quite an interesting problem. How does the mind look at itself? So you could almost say that that's like the koan that we're working with today. So the Chinul came up with this phrase, and as you all heard me, I've been talking about it for weeks and weeks, and then we talked about it in Pasadena, and it's always captured my attention. He says that he refers to what he calls the one thought mind, and just the idea of the one thought mind is, for me, quite intriguing. If you could have one thought, only one thought in your mind, what would that thought be? What would you, if you could just choose, oh, okay, I'll just pick one thought. What would that thought be? There are many different suggestions as to what that one thought would be. But in a sense, Chinul suggests to us that the thought is or the idea of tracing back the radiance. And that's kind of the title of the book that I like to read, and he refers to it over and over and over, tracing back the radiance. So I'd suggest to you that this is like what we want to try to do today as we go through sitting and walking, that we're tracing back the radiance of the mind. So what does that mean, tracing back the radiance? If you close your eyes as you sit, is there a sense of radiance in the mind? Is there a sense of light somewhere? Or if you close your eyes and you don't even try to conceptualize the idea of radiance, What about the idea of awareness? As you sit and close your eyes, is there awareness? I mean, I think everybody would agree is awareness, right? You know there's awareness, yes? You may not be able to see it or hear it or touch it or taste it. And it is said that awareness is signless. There's no sign of awareness, right? I mean, you can't see it. You just know it. You know that if you close your eyes again, is there awareness of a body? Right? There is awareness of a body, I think, and how does one explain that there is a body? You're aware of it. There's awareness of seeing even with the eyes closed. There's awareness of hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. So Chinul says that awareness is numinous. And what does numinous mean? What does numinous mean? It essentially refers to divine, something sacred. If something that is sacred is numinous. So, how does that work for you with your eyes closed and with this aspiration to be in touch with awareness, nothing other than just being in touch with it, aware of awareness? What is it like then to add to that there's something sacred about awareness? And sacred only about, not even anything outside or above, but something just about awareness itself that is sacred. The other thing that Chinul says about the mind, and he refers to the mind as the true mind. He always uses that phrase, the true mind is numinous and aware. He says two more things, though, about it, and about its essence. It's numinous and aware. And he also says it's calm. As you sit and as you bring your attention to the reality of awareness, and as we do that, it's nowhere, right? It's not located anywhere, is it? I mean, you could say that there's awareness of the body, but then it's only that's only one place where awareness is, but awareness is in all directions, and it's everywhere. So then, what about the idea that awareness is calm? Can you be connected to a calmness that's associated with awareness? And then the other one that is that as we're tracing back the radiance to this numinous, calm, aware, true mind, Chinul says if you trace it back to its source, just trace it all the way back, you will find there's an absolute. The word is sunyata, there is an emptiness. There's an emptiness in the true mind. So those four things, calm and empty, numinous or sacred, and empty. So, what does it mean to say that it's empty? Well, one thing that, to me, I would say, if it's empty, there is no me in it. There's no person in it. If you experience, if you think of the mind as space, you might even say that space is calm. But certainly you would also say that space is empty. You might even say that it's sacred, as in a sacred space. So how do we do this, as we sit now, and we're going to be sitting for 45 minutes shortly. And then we'll ring the bell and we'll walk. And I'll give you some walking instructions. But how do we remember that what we're aiming for is to trace back the radiance? That's the one thought that you're cultivating as you sit, and that I'm cultivating. The one thought that we're cultivating is that we are trying to trace back this sense of radiance, of calmness, or if you want to just put it differently, trying to trace ourselves back to or remembering the true mind. So as we were sitting in Pasadena, so I was talking about the difference in, the practice that so many of us have learned in the Theravada practice, or the technique of focusing on breathing, focusing on the rise and the fall of the breath, or focusing on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. This is much harder to do, and it's kind of, I find myself sort of stumped when I start talking about it to you all, and for myself too, because we're comfortable with technique. We're comfortable with this is what I need to do, right? Okay, I watch my stomach, feel the sensation as it rises and it falls, or feel the nostrils, the breath touching the nostrils, or even trying to watch the thoughts. That's technique, and technique is very good. But Chinul, when he says that we should just drop all of that and try to trace back the radiance, that's not an easy thing to do. So as we go through the day, I'm just going to say this over and over, and probably I'll try to remind you all of this, 100 times, to remember the mind. When you move, what is causing you to move? When you listen, what is causing listening? When you experience any sensation as you sit this moment, and we sit, everybody is in different positions, but to some extent we feel the sensation of the body as we sit, legs folded, or sitting in a chair, or your hands, your palms. There's sensation, but what is experiencing sensation? What is that? That's what we are interested in today. If you are able to trace back the sensation of any part of the body, if you can trace it back to its source, you're back to the mind. If we are having thoughts and we trace them back, we have the thought, but you trace it back, it's the mind. So I wanted to read to you something. Some of you know that I was in Nepal for 2 months. It was like 2 months of hell, and I found some notes that I wrote in a journal, and this was sort of like at the end of this was at the end of the 2 months, and I just happened to read this a couple of days ago. Well, I guess I didn't write it. So anyway, so I wanted to read this and share it with you. This is like at the end of 2 months of going fairly insane. This was like, as I said, during the sit, one was looking at the mind. Now that's one was talking about this. There was not a real strong sense of VB at that point. So I wrote, during the sit, one was looking at the mind. So I would like to just sort of suggest to you, as we start, that's a good sentence for you to begin with as we sit today. During the sit, one was looking at the mind as best one could, right? At emptiness, and seeing that mind is mind. Just that. It is not VB's mind. It is not Victor's mind. It is all minds. They are the same in essence. Empty and aware. The mind is the same in essence. It's empty and aware. It was clear to me, I don't know if I've seen this before, I suspect I have, that what I call, quote, my mind is really a body mind. It thinks with the body. It really does. Your mind can't think without your body, right? It just can't do that. It needs a body to think. It imagines itself, your mind and my mind, thinks it has arms and legs. It really does. Right? It thinks it has arms and legs, right? If you close your eyes, there you are, and it's got arms, it's got legs. It's got a little butt down there somewhere, right? It's got a little belly breathing. That's the mind think. That's a deluded mind, right? My mind, unfortunately, is deluded too. So the mind has so ingrained and so become so incarnated in flesh, it's gotten confused. Took it a long time to do that, right? Thousands of years. It finally so incarnated in the material that it thinks it's material, right? So it thinks with that materiality. So this is kind of funny right here, so I laughed when I read it. It thinks with the body. It imagines itself with arms and legs because it is so intimately connected with the body. The body needs to pee, not the mind. I thought that was, I was pretty shocked when I wrote that. I thought, oh. The body needs to pee, not the mind. But it is the mind that says, I need to pee, isn't it? Every mind says that. I need to pee. Well, not necessarily if you don't need to pee. So the mind says, I need to pee, right? Pretty funny. The mind needs to go to the meditation hall, and the body takes it there. It can't get to the meditation hall except that the body will take it there. Right? The mind cannot sit in meditation except that the body will sit for it. The mind says, I need to sit, but it is the body that sits. So, to some extent, the mind is, so I am sitting. That's what the mind said. I am now sitting. I am now staring at Kevin. That's what the mind said. So you can see how confusing it is for this mind. So this one said these are extraordinarily connected, and in Theravada Buddhism it's called Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa. Mind, body. One affects the other. They both need each other. Without Rupa, there's no Nama. Without Nama, there's no Rupa. The mind can separate itself from the body. Praise the Lord, right? It can separate from its body, and we live in our head. And then pretend we're not a body, right? But it's not really separating from the body. It's just that it withdraws itself from the body to get into thought. And this is called living in the head. It's not called living in the body. But it is still a body-mind. Even if it's living in the head, it's still a body-mind. So then the last thing that I wrote was the big mind does not think or feel or even see with the eyes. It just is. It is pure awareness. And then I said, that's what I saw this morning. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't read this in probably a year. But I thought it was interesting in terms of Chinul. Because it is exactly what he says, and asks us to make that our... I once had a therapist who talked about the pole star. And so the compass pointing towards the pole star. So I think that what I'm suggesting to you all today is that for today, I would just really like for each of us to try to have that compass pointed towards the pole star. The old master, it's sometimes called. The old master. There's another expression for it called let me see if I can remember. The awesome voice on the other shore. It's beautiful, right? This is all Mahayana. The awesome voice on the other shore. The other shore meaning the unconditioned. We live on the shore of the conditioned. The other shore. The whole teaching of the Buddha is, that our journey is to go from here to the other shore. But the awesome voice from the other shore is that non-dual mind that is already there. Is already on the other shore. It's not living in duality. And it is always there, always calling, always reminding us. So as I said, that could be the pole star for us, the compass for which we are attempting to focus on as we sit today. So nobody's going to be able to do it. That would be including me, I mean, it's a wonderful aspiration. The aspiration to have this continually moving back towards the mind, this mind, not this person, not this personality, but this mind. I think I can't remember where it said, but anyway, so Chinul said that entering the courtyard, entering the courtyard of the teaching, right, this is the courtyard of the teaching. Entering the courtyard is this aspiration to connect to what he calls the true mind. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'll read some things as we go along to sort of like help remind us again. I can't say this enough. This turned out to be sort of a Dharma talk, didn't it? I didn't think it was. Oh my goodness. I always look at the watch because if it's like 40 minutes or 30 minutes, and I was like, wow, so that was a talk. So you all know the phrase, some of you know the phrase, like it's actually, I never can pronounce these terms, but this is a good one. It's, Patisotagami. That's pretty right. You know what that is, Jane, don't you? Patisotagami. You do. So there's a wonderful meditation center in Los Angeles called Against the Stream. That's what that word means. Patisotagami. Against the Stream. So I love that expression, you know, and so the so I guess what I'm trying to suggest to you all is it's an extraordinary aspiration to try to move against the stream. Thank you. There's something. We're so programmed. It's hard for me to even express this to you. Because I express it from this experience of my own resistance, right? There's something so profoundly resistant in each of us to acknowledging this mind. I don't know what that's about, but it's every one of you and me. This extraordinary resistance to acknowledging the reality that there is a mind, the awesome voice on the other side, that is controlling this, right? This or that. The mind is doing everything, and ain't nobody apparently wants to acknowledge that. Why? Because everybody wants to say, including me, no, I am controlling everything. It's me. It's me. And then it's sort of like, what? Are you trying to accuse me of being a mind? How insulting that is, right? That's very insulting. And I remember, like, when I was in college, people used to refer to me as the brain. I was very insulted. Plus, it was kind of dumb. But I found that very insulting. But as I got older, I thought, oh, well, that was exactly right. We are a brain that has, that is sort of at least out of which becomes magically and almost without comprehension, a mind. So I just wanted to say that to you. It's like I would like to impress in your mind that this practice is tremendously against the stream of our conditioning. Our conditioning says, me, I am me. And the me does not want to acknowledge that there is something bigger than it that is actually operating and controlling everything. So, have I made it sufficiently clear? But this is really, really, really hard. This is really hard. Something in us does not want to look at the mind. Doesn't want to acknowledge the reality of the mind. We're very happy to do the 4 foundations of mindfulness, right? We're very happy to do technique, but we're not so happy about trying to move back and look over and over, or again, as Chinul said, trying to trace back the radiance. So I'm just going to shut up now. And we're going to sit for 45 minutes. And you might want to stretch first. If you need to stretch, stand up.